Hi, I am the dude behind this digital hauntology channel. You can call me Haunt, you can call me Mr. Hauntology, or you can call me by my real name, which is Nick. Um, First things first, this channel recently hit 1,000 subscribers. And if you're one of those subscribers, I mean, thank you. It really does mean a lot. But it's wild. I never thought this channel was gonna get past 100, let alone 1,000. And I know it's still a small channel by all definitions, but I'm still getting used to the idea that there's actually people watching this stuff. So, thank you. If you enjoy these videos, if you like what you see here, please consider subscribing. I'd love to see the channel continue to grow. See if we could hit 2,000. Who knows? But with all that said, I'm going to be jumping ahead into this list. If you've seen one of these videos before, you already know what's going on here. If you haven't, the quick rundown is after every 5 normal episodes that I do, uploads that I do, I basically take the games that I've covered in the last 5 episodes, and then I go ahead and I put them on this list. Kind of in an attempt to figure out what's the best game of all time, at least according to me. And just as a quick disclaimer, when I'm doing these types of videos, I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of what my opinion was. If you want the full breakdown of these games, the videos are for, that's what those videos are for. I'll spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour talking about these games, but here I'm just going to ramble off a few of my key thoughts and try to figure out where they are placed for the rest of this stuff. So, we got some heavy hitters this time around. Starting this one off, we're going to have Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And that one's kind of a hard one for me because the game is great, right? Like, swinging around as Spider-Man feels great. Super awesome sense of speed this time around. You even have, like, the web wings that allow you to glide. Combat is solid. I did feel like it was a little bit of a downgrade since the last 2 games. I just felt like the gadgets were better in the first game. The suit powers were a little bit cooler. And then the narrative in this game, I don't know. I thought it was the weakest out of all these Insomniac Spider-Man games. But the overall experience was pretty rock solid. I would come home from work every day and be like, yeah, I want to go swing around New York just a little bit more. So it is a great game, like I said, but where are we going to put it on this list? And for me, I've been thinking this one through. This one is probably the first one that I was thinking about the most. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it one below Final Fantasy 16. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So my thought process here is Marvel Spider-Man 2, very fun to play. The amount of polish across the experience is out of control. Runs at 60 frames per second. Just feels incredible. And a lot of the games below it, I think that they're all very good. I think that they're all, fun in their own right. But I think that this is just a kind of a league above it. But I think that Final Fantasy 16 is definitely in that same league. These are AAA games. They are incredibly polished. The fidelity is amazing. But I think both of them kind of run into similar problems. Like, I felt like Final Fantasy 16, pretty cool story. Dead open world. Combat was really fun to play. Maybe didn't have the opportunity to give you as much strategy as you'd like to see in an RPG. But I think where Final Fantasy 16 kind of edges this one out is I feel like I've seen Insomniac's take on Spider-Man by this point. I know what these games are going to be. Final Fantasy 16 had a lot more of that surprise factor as, they were really figuring this stuff out. So I think I'm going to lock that one in there for now. So up next, if you've been watching this channel, you will know that I did a 4-part series on all things Alan Wake. Alan Wake, Alan Wake's American Nightmare, Control, Alan Wake 2. Quantum Break's already on the list, or else I'd be throwing that one on there too. So, um, yeah, let's start with the original Alan Wake. Pretty awesome, pretty awesome game from 2010. I played the remaster for the purposes of this review, but you know, outside of a few little differences, pretty much the same game. And if I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put that one, let's see. So when I'm looking at this list, Alan Wake, really solid game from 2010, awesome storytelling. Remedy just kind of, you know, taking everything that they had done from the Max Payne games and taking it into this new kind of horror themed shooter. But it's kind of hard, right? Like, you're trying to separate the nostalgia and the fact that this is built into the series that has been, you know, just kept on giving. So where I think I'm going to end up putting it is going to be right above Solstice. And here's my thought process around this. Solstice is very much like a awesome hack and slash game from like a B, or like double indie kind of studio, coming out of Italy on this one. And they basically like took this one old school idea, Devil May Cry, and like, you know, just old school hack and slash games, and tried to run it into a, you know, kind of new take on the genre. And I think that they did an incredible job. I think Alan Wake is just like a little bit more polished. The storytelling is a little tighter, way more intriguing. It just has an identity all its own. And there are certain things like that are a little bit kind of, you know, could be improved with Alan Wake. Maybe the encounter design is a little bit, or the encounter rate is a little too high. But that is a story that just propelled me from beginning to end and kept me interested, you know, where I couldn't stop playing it. Solstice, I think the combat is probably a little better than with Alan Wake. Alan Wake, you know, you just fight with light, you hold your flashlight on these enemies, and then you shoot them. And then they throw, you know, some little curveballs at you. Solstice definitely had the more nuanced combat. But, you know, even compared to something like Quantum Break, Alan Wake's storytelling mixed with its action, yeah, I'm gonna put it here. Yeah, I kind of rambled through that one, but like, you know, the heart knows where to put that one. So after playing Alan Wake Remastered, I jumped into Alan Wake's American Nightmare, which is kind of a Alan Wake 1.5. It was originally a slice of what would have been Alan Wake 2 had it been approved all the way back in like 2011 or 2012. I have the actual date in the video, but right now I'm forgetting. But essentially, that was more or less like a proof of concept for what they wanted to do with Alan Wake 2. And then when they were unable to get the funding for it, they turned it into a downloadable game. So smaller scale, stranger ideas, way better combat, and just a cool little micro game in a lot of ways. You could beat that one in probably 3 to 4 hours, and very novel, but it does lack a lot of what made Alan Wake special. The atmosphere is definitely not the same. The storytelling, it's just a little slice of a narrative as opposed to, you know, the actual story that we got with Alan Wake 1. So it is more Alan Wake. In some little ways, it's a little better than Alan Wake. In some ways, it's not even close. But, you know, the big problem here is that it is like a glorified proof of concept. So when I'm thinking about that, like, I know I'm going to put it below Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I mean, we're going to go right here. Even though it's short, I mean, the same could be said about Titan Chaser. Like, there really is a lot of like heart and soul here, and the way that the game kind of blends its computer graphics with live action footage, they stepped it up to the next level in American Nightmare. And so this game, it feels like a really like important part of Remedy's developing style. And yeah, like I'm happy with it there. Now, Control. Control is one of my favorite games of all time. Um, I've said in the video that, that was the fourth time that I had run through it. And for me, it really comes down to the world building. The oldest house is one of my favorite environments in just about any video game. Um, I understand that it could be a little samey with its brutalist architecture, cold concrete and all that stuff, but I do feel like there is enough like diversity in environments that is going on there when you're up in the executive sector versus maintenance sector versus the research sector. Like everything kind of takes on its own vibe, and the way that they just kind of took this like conspiracy theory laden world and twisted it around like paranatural happenings. I don't know. I love it. It's not a perfect game. I mean, I think some of the enemies are a little too bullet spongy. I think that they try to do a couple things like adding alerts and like kind of more procedurally generated content to the game, just as ways to kind of pad out the playtime and the overall narrative. Like if you're just playing the critical path, I think that you might find the main story of that game to be a little underwhelming. But if you're playing all the content, if you're seeing all the side missions, if you're reading every document, if you're trying to get the most that you can, it's a story unlike any other. I love the action in it. I think that it's just superb. I mean, telekinesis, just blowing through cubicles, um, being able to fly. It's essentially Max Payne, Quantum Break, everything Remedy's ever done, but just like taken up to that next level where it's just like we are gonna go crazy and let these players really just lay waste to the enemies that they're fighting. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a lock, right? Control has to be number one on this list for me. Um, I don't know if it'll stay there forever. I think that there's definitely games that I can think of that I played in the past off the top of my head that would give Control a run for its money. But yeah, there ain't nothing like it, and I recommend it to anybody that would ever want to play video games. It might not be for you. It might be a little too weird. You might not like the way that the shooting is in that game. That's up to you. It's all subjective. But for me, I think that yeah, I think it's the best game on this list with a bullet. Kane and Bridge of Spirits had a really good run. This is the fifth time I've done one of these videos, and I believe Kane has been on the top of the list for the other four. So go play that game if you haven't. But I think we're going to enter the reign of a new game for just a little while, and fight me in the comments if you disagree. Now the final one, Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is the most anticipated I had been about any of these games on this list, right? Like 13 years in the making, um, you know, basically finally giving us some level of closure to what we had dealt with the first Alan Wake game, being left with the it's not a lake, it's an ocean. Like we actually get to see on some level what that means. And Remedy had obviously been continuing to evolve from the time that they had made those games. Control, clearly, but Quantum Break, American Nightmare. This studio has constantly been refining its storytelling techniques, constantly trying to figure out its own style guide, just blending that live action and that CG gameplay, and just trying to figure out these ways to get you to look at the screen and just go, what am I even looking at? It's insane. And Alan Wake 2 is, in a lot of ways, it's Remedy's magnum opus. Every lesson that they've learned, they've applied to Alan Wake 2. Everything that they've been working towards narratively, it shows up here too. Control may have been where the connected universe for Remedy like really showed up, and Alan Wake 2 is obviously, like, if we're using like a Marvel kind of cinematic universe metaphor, Alan Wake 2 is start of phase 2. Alan Wake 2 moving into survival horror, the survival horror genre. A lot of people are going to be very happy with that. I am happy with it, but it's not my preferred genre. But I think that they expertly carried it up. I think that it's definitely up there with like a Resident Evil 2 remake in terms of representation for that genre. So where would I put Alan Wake 2 on that list? It's magnificent in some ways. You know, it's got some little pacing issues, but ultimately the story is just like one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in a video game. If I'm being honest, the only games, the conversation is really just between Control and Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 just felt like a celebration of the last 13 years for Remedy, and it felt like the closing of this like important chapter and the beginning of a new one. I'm giving it to Control. I just ran through all of these games, right? All 4 of those games back to back. Alan Wake, American Nightmare, Control, Alan Wake 2. And I've played Control 4 times. I've played Alan Wake 2 twice. They added the final draft DLC, which was kind of like a new game plus with a couple extra bits of lore. And when I first played Alan Wake 2, it would have been a lock. I would have thrown that right on top of Control. Never thought back to it. But playing Control again and then playing Alan Wake 2 immediately after Control, kind of sandwiching these two experiences, Alan Wake 2, I recommend to anybody. I mean, realistically, let's just think about this. Like, I know there are only 34 games on this list, but easy locks that I can like recommend to just about any person, like without any type of complaint. I would say these first 13, if you haven't played these, absolutely play them. I think they're excellent. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to Control. And dang, man, that top 10 is like just dominated by Remedy, but it will change as time goes forward. I already know a couple that would knock a few of those loose. So that's gonna be my run through for today. Again, you know, thank you for checking it out. And if you disagree with any of it, let me have it in the comments. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and you're all beautiful people. I hope you have a great day.